Welcome back to What Happens in Vegas. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Canestraro. Today we have Mike Camilleri here. He is the president and CEO of Safeguard Solutions, helping you understand and fix solutions in your home so that you're not getting exposed to too much of this dirty electricity. And we're going to go into all of that. But thank you so much, Mike, for being here.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we met, I don't even remember how. Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. We met when I came down to your condo in downtown Toronto at the Vegas.
Oh, but we were connected by Nick. That's how. Sorry, I was just
Yes,
trying
Dr.
to remember.
Nick. Yes, that's
Yes,
right.
yes, yes. And yeah, so you tested my condo and my parents' house and did some really interesting testing. But first of all, I want to know, how did you get into being interested in like building biology and like just, home health in general?
Absolutely. So I actually kind of fell in it and then fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was for 4 years I was working for a company here in Ontario, just doing tech support and sales, working with the EMF meters and got a really solid foundation of how to properly shield and come up with solutions on how to reduce and lower EMF exposure throughout the home. And I more or less my days were spent with people on the phone, going through all of their issues inside of their home and helping them to negate exactly what it was that they were going through and how to reduce the EMFs throughout the home while educating them on the different areas of EMF as well.
So tell people like why, okay, what is EMF? What is dirty electricity? What are the dangers in our home and like how can we protect from them? Just first start off with why is this thing dangerous? And let's start with 5G because I talk about it a lot and it was rolled
Yeah.
out March 2020 is when they started putting up the towers for it. So
Yeah,
just tell me, how is it different? Why should we be concerned about it? But then again, what's a solution for it?
absolutely. So with 5G, the story basically goes on. There's 5G which we experience here in Ontario, Canada, and then there's also 5G in the US, which is more on the millimeter wave side. And so that's why I think 5G, what it comes down to is in order for their um, in order for to make the infrastructure work, they have to bring it a lot closer to home, because basically the rule of thumb is the higher the frequency, the shorter the wavelengths of those frequencies. And the frequencies, when they're short, they're more susceptible to interference. So they're blocked out by trees, rain, buildings, people, right? So they're bringing everything closer to home, and that's the dangerous part. Is not only the frequency that they're using at the millimeter wave level, which is roughly about 20 to 40 gigahertz. I think here in Ontario, Canada, I've seen a few areas that have it, but not as much as there is in the US.
Mm.
And so because they're bringing everything closer to home,
Hmm.
it's these small cell antennas that are
Hmm.
becoming the issues for the most part, and they're putting them on the light poles right in front of our homes. So you're dealing with the millimeter wave technology, which is a lot more damaging to our cells inside of our body. And if you actually think about how it affects our cells, it basically is like voltage gated calcium channels inside our cells that are activated by this radiation,
Hmm.
and it's rapidly multiplying the calcium inside of our cells, which creates high levels of free radicals. It can get very scientific, but that's more or less a breakdown of how wireless radiation affects our bodies.
Yeah, and something that like, I don't know, because what speaks to people sometimes is like vanity. So when you have too much of these free radicals, what we're seeing is what? Premature graying hair, premature aging, like, but also like scary symptoms, like heart palpitations. Like people don't realize, oh, they're like slowly coming up because like you're getting this influx of calcium that's making like your nervous system be on fire essentially. Like, and people aren't putting those things together, but it does change when, especially when people are sensitive and have more things in their body that react to these like heavy metals, then they're going to be the ones even more affected. This is what I'm seeing from the side of health. Do you agree?
Oh yes, absolutely. And I mean, I work with a lot of clients, and when I'm in their homes, I actually have an EMF self-assessment that I roll through with them ahead of time before, because you know what? I would say, like they say, only 3% of the population is actually sensitive to electromagnetic fields. That means 97% of us don't know that we're actually sensitive or how EMFs are affecting our body, right?
Mhm.
So like some of the symptoms, it can range from, like you were discussing, rapidly aging to difficulty concentrating, blurry and unclear vision, right? Memory loss. There's this, the main thing is that a lot of these symptoms actually are associated with so many other sensitivities or illnesses.
Yeah.
And so if you take this to your doctor is going to take a look, he's going to listen to you and he's just going to say, well, do this, this, and this. But EMF is not going to be a part of the conversation, right?
Mhm.
And most they're going to tell you to reach out to a professional or a building
Mhm.
biologist. Um, and so that's where a lot of things fall through the cracks.
Yeah, not a lot of people know about building biology, but that's why we're trying to educate people on this, right? So we
Absolutely.
have these 5 millimeter wave or the G, which are these millimeter waves. They're like a direct energy. They're like a novel new frequency. So when it comes to frequencies, like everything has a frequency. The Earth has the Schumann frequency, which is healing to us. All of our cells have a different frequency. When we're sick, they can measure your cells and show you that the frequency's off. So we are frequency beings, and now we're getting lasered, zapped with a direct wave. So obviously that's going to affect people. So I just wanted to kind of
Yeah.
lay that out like that, because even 4G, when they harnessed it, correct me if I'm wrong, it's still damaging because they're harnessing, but it was waves that already existed, right? Like they were scalar waves, not these more damaging direct laser waves. Let's picture them as, even people were sensitive before, so now, this brought on a whole new wave of symptomatology that's being missed,
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. And
Yeah.
like, so a lot of people ask, how do I protect myself from
Hmm.
5G? Should I move? What should we do? And I'll tell you, so like, it's more or less w wireless radiation from cell towers. It's very easy to shield from. You just have to be open to the changes that we can make. And a lot of it, and that's what I do on my assessments, is I kind of look to negate the differences between what's coming in from the outside of your home and what's actually going on the inside. So we work to eliminate as much as possible everything that's going on inside the house, and then also look to, okay, can we do to shield anything that is coming in from these cell towers, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes cell towers are not always in plain sight. I've seen cell towers disguised as trees. I've seen them disguised as crosses on churches. And this is something that's becoming, it's because they don't want people to know that these are cell towers. So that's what we kind of work with. And not everything is registered as well online in terms of where cell towers are located. So that's another thing that we work to
Yeah,
strive.
but you can even see, like, it used to be like, oh, I'm just trying to remember the color because I started watching them roll out G, and you could see it went from all like red to purple. Like you're starting to see it like be more kind of condensed. I forget the color. It was just on Rogers. But the reason I got so interested in it, obviously I'm in this field, but I got really sick and it happened to be, I was in an arena and they had 5G plus in that arena. Plus I had a mold exposure like a few weeks before. Plus I was exposed to COVID without knowing that. Like, so like this a wave of toxicity when your cells become weaker, and it affected my heart. And then it got even worse when they put a wireless heart monitor on me. So
Yeah.
again, I was just in a state of panic, and I listened to them, even though when they were putting this wireless heart monitor on me, the technician said, they don't have wired ones because I asked for that, but my heart was going so crazy. I'm like, I need to know what's going on. I'd never had an issue with my heart. And they hooked me up to that thing, and they go, some people are imagining that they're having pain through their body with this on. And I was one of the imagining ones where my symptoms went from bad to worse when they put on that Bluetooth connected to a phone. So
Yeah.
much so, I was giving off so much electricity and shocking stuff. I actually short circuited their machine.
Oh my gosh.
So that was my like, and then that is when things went from maybe I would have got over that to not turn into like full blown Lyme where my everything was hijacked. Cause from that moment, it went from my heart to pain in my liver to pain in my kidneys. And I had to get home because that what it did is it put so much waste in my body that my body couldn't keep up, and Lyme was able to take over because I had it in the past, and it was able to infect every organ and ruin my life for 5 years, right? And I had to do a lot of working backwards. So that's how I became so passionate about this topic because it was so obvious. My hair was standing on end, my muscles were twitching. I shocked absolutely everything I touched. I had a buzzing feeling in my body that no one ever wants to feel, that literally made me feel like I was going to short circuit myself. Right. So then it became obvious I couldn't hold my phone without my arms swelling up because I had become so sensitive. And then I left G areas and I went to Dominican and my symptoms cut in like half, right? And then they were less and less as time went on with grounding. So we're going to talk about shielding your home, about grounding, about ways to negate this because it's not going away anytime soon, right?
And that's correct. No, it's if anything, it's just getting more intense.
Yeah.
More and more cell towers are going up. We're seeing them on top of hospitals. We're seeing them on top of retirement homes. I actually do a lot of work in the community with the schools here in Toronto, helping them to negate EMFs. And I tell you, it's a challenge to work with them sometimes. But every little bit of education or acknowledgement that we get from the public regarding safety of electromagnetic fields is time.
So let's talk about inside the home. So what are some simple things? So I'll just explain, everyone's got their 5G router, right? And it's,
Yes.
connecting with their phone. So a simple thing people tell is like turn off your Wi-Fi when you're not using it or at night. But like even then, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't. It's attached to my alarm, this, that, and the other thing. So like what's one solution for like Wi-Fi in the home if someone's willing to go like all the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the gold standard is Ethernet cable throughout the home, so we can turn off the Wi-Fi on all of our devices. Hopefully, your service provider can also assist you in turning off the Wi-Fi at the moment as well, so that the Wi-Fi is not running through the air. And I mean, it is available. It is there. And I've seen some really advanced systems as well. I was at a client's home yesterday, and they could turn their Wi-Fi on and off with the touch of a button.
Yeah, they have like that breaker cable.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. The whole house is hardwired, and you can just press Wi-Fi off, and the whole Wi-Fi throughout the entire home shuts down.
Yeah, and then you have to plug something into your phone like old school. So a lot of people don't like that.
Yeah,
And it
that's
is definitely inconvenient. This is going to stand out more for people who are not feeling well, who some of these symptoms are resonating with, but like
uh,
it's, it does, take your exposure down. Your home is where you are the
yeah.
most. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing is too is like while you have your modem on, like not everybody isn't going to be in the exact same situation. So our company actually manufactures the RadTech modem cover. We've recently just improved it using a fire-rated plastic. It's all done on a 3D printer, and it's insulated with an RF foil at 120 dB, basically cutting down the radiation from about 90%.
When you cut down the radiation, does it have to search more on your phone? Like, or is it still like,
It's possible. It's very hard to. So I mean, more or less, like at that point, you want to be plugged in when using your phone. We'll get to that in a
okay,
minute,
yeah.
but there is a way around that. Plugging in, hardwiring to your phone. The adapters are actually now available. You can get them on Amazon or at Best Buy, and that allows you to turn off the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on your phone and use the hardwired connection.
And without hardwiring your whole home. This is just one where it's called the net gearbox, right? This is what
That's
you're
right.
saying.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Netgear power line. It's been around for a while. Again, the gold standard is always going to be Ethernet, but this is a secondary way of hardwiring your home. You can install up to 8 of them throughout the house. You do have to have a very good internet connection, but it's a great way because what it does is it uses the frequency in the wall at 60 hertz. It basically carries the internet signal through the electrical system of your home, bringing it out to the point where you connect the box, plugging into a receptacle outlet, and then you have an adapter from there that you can put into your computer, your laptop, your cell phone. And I use these throughout my house, and I've installed them for many clients. They're very easy to install.
And then I have them also at my condo but even at the condo, like this is a thought because like, you look at we're not there as much as we can, but when you look at the drop down, like there's like 70 different Wi-Fi's still coming at you. Like, but
Yes.
does it still help you for you personally for it coming that you have it plugged in? Like you're lowering it enough that you can help yourself a
Yeah,
little.
no, 100%. Yes, it absolutely does. And so just to talk about that little Wi-Fi thing with the 70 different Wi-Fis, no doubt there may be exposure from people's different Wi-Fis. It's part of the um, external radiation that comes into our homes, right? One of the things that they actually teach us in in building biology school is that it's kind of a misconception as well in terms of how much radiation we're getting from that, because just because it shows up 20, it's just a very small percentage of signal that it takes for you to display on your phone. But aside from that, I'm not discounting it at all. I think it's 100% a external source that can affect the wireless radiation that comes into our own homes.
Yeah. And then, so you also talked about the small antenna towers. So the whole thing with 5G is it has to be what, every 200 meters to have a, or
Yeah,
is it
it's
even
very
less?
close. It's
Yeah.
probably in residential areas, it's probably even closer. And I mean, you'll see them like in downtown cores, you'll see them in stadiums. Well, you won't even see them. They're hidden. But they're there.
Mhm.
And like sitting in front of the light poles in front of our homes, right? It's just too close. It's too close, and the closer it is, it's all about proximity as well, right?
Mhm.
So the closer it is to our homes, I mean, there's a lot of other external things to look at as well, such as, you know, like the smart meter,
Mhm.
and that's a big one on its own.
And everyone has like a whole smart home now. Like it's like
That's
just
correct. Yeah.
everywhere, right? Like everything is attached to Wi-Fi. So, I mean, we try and tell people, okay, at least you can also, go outside and ground and like get rid of some of these
You can.
positive ions and absorb some electrons kind of from the earth to kind of offset some of it. Like what else can we can we do if we can't hardwire our home, or what else?
So you can, if we can't hardwire,
Or
limiting the number of
then we could
sources.
do the Netgear was the second one, which is like a,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it's a really great solution, the Netgear. But I mean, the connection has to be solid, right,
Mhm.
inside the home. That's one of the key components for the Netgear power line to work.
Mhm.
But also, I mean, just limiting the amount of smart technology inside of our homes
Mhm.
is a big thing. Like, there are going to be some things that we really just can't live without, right? So it's very difficult to go into a baby's room and tell a mother that she can't have a camera inside of her baby's room, right? Well, there are alternative wired cameras that you can purchase, or even ones that I find that are much lower in terms of radiation, and those are available. Those are available online. But
And even like what about the how far away it is from the baby? Because you see some people and it's like just right there, like,
yeah,
like it could be
absolutely.
further and still see them, like,
Yep, 100%.
and then you get a
Right.
bit less. But yeah, I'd say wired one, if
There
anything.
is actually one of my suppliers. They do a baby crib canopy. So
Mm,
you can actually get a canopy that drapes down and it goes right around the bed. And they
it's
use an
sheer.
EMF fabric. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a sheer white cotton
Mhm.
fabric
Yeah.
that drapes down.
Yeah, so just so people know, if you it's usually made from silver, right? These blocking things?
It is. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's correct.
Yeah, so that's one of the things where you can block these millimeter waves really well. But can you
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong? Because I'm so confused about this because I was going to get a canopy and then they're like, but if there's any like dirty electricity in your house, then silver can attract that? Like,
It can if it's a conductive fabric, right?
okay.
So there are, and I ran into this in the past with some clients are more sensitive than others, right?
Mhm.
And so what happens, and I mean, this doesn't have to be just because you're sensitive, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, like I had a client that was very, very sensitive to low frequency electric fields. And so we were going back and forth on whether or not we should use a conductive fabric or a non-conductive fabric. And although it's very good to get rid of the electric fields in the environment, there's a lot of misconception about this topic. And
Hmm.
when it comes down to it, I just think if you're extremely sensitive, you don't want to draw electric fields towards you, right? So for her, I recommended going with the non-conductive fabrics.
So
And you should
what's the non-conductive fabric? What's the difference? Are they both still have silver or is silver conductive? I'm not even.
the conductive fabrics have different metals that run throughout them
Okay.
that are more conductive. So it makes the material more conductive, drawing
Is it
in.
if it's like the pure silver one, then it's not conductive?
I think it might be a different grade
Okay.
of metals that are woven through
Uh-huh.
that um
Can
that are,
attract.
yeah, exactly, that it can attract more. And it's the same thing like when we install the EMF paint. So the EMF paint, there's different ways to do it. It's very technical, but there's a like a conductive there's a conductive additive that you can pour into the EMF paint to make the wall more conductive for drawing in electric fields. That's
Why would
that's
you do that?
so with that, as long as you have a really good ground and it's recommended and done properly by a qualified licensed electrician, it will help to get rid of a lot of the electric field buildup, but also the paint itself is naturally conductive.
Hmm.
So they want to ensure it's actually mandatory to do the grounding for this by the company Y Shield. They're
Uh-huh.
out of Germany in Europe. So the grounding is mandatory regardless. There's
Hmm.
just different ways of doing the grounding and making it more conductive, less conductive, and your
Okay.
electrician should be checking for continuity as well when we're doing the installation.
Yeah, so just to clarify for people listening, you're talking about paint. So you come into a house and you measure it and you find which rooms have more electricity or EMF coming at them from G, but then you also measure the lower frequencies. And then say it's a wall that's, close to a tower, you can paint it with something that blocks just that wall, not necessarily the whole room, like
Yeah.
depending, right? Correct? Am I
Absolutely,
correct?
that's correct. Yeah, yeah. You can do all like I actually did my daughter's room because we actually have a water tower right behind our house that is covered in cellular antennas. So I put up EMF curtains, I did the paint, I did all four walls and the ceiling, and that it brought the levels down by a lot, right?
So, but when you do that, is it correct that then you shouldn't use your phone on Wi-Fi
Yes,
mode in that room, correct?
100%,
Yeah. Or
100%.
else it's like bouncing back at you because now you have
Yes, it can make
the
the
conduct.
problem worse. It can
Yeah.
amplify the radiation that's coming off the frequencies. And I mean, the thing is that if you're going to be investing the money into putting up the EMF paint to stop wireless RF radiation from coming in, the last thing you want to do is bring it into your room yourself, right?
Exactly.
Now, I mean, some people may follow that, some people may not. And the other thing, way of looking at it too, is which one's kind of worse, right? Is it still worth blocking from outside, or what we're bringing into our rooms, right? So I ask people that when I do these installations, that they kind of keep that in mind
Hmm.
to not bring it into the bedroom. And I mean, the bedroom is our sanctuary, right? It's where our bodies
Yes.
go to rest, recover, and heal. And if we're being bombarded by EMFs, a lot of that is counteracting what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do that, you're not going to take your phone in. Why would you go ahead and do that just to then kind of ruin it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's drapes, there's putting the canopies over your bed, there's painting the walls, there's using the net gear boxes or gold standard hardwiring your whole place. We talked about going outside, ground earthing it's called. What about grounding mats and PEMF mats? Do you have any? I like PEMF mats, the ones that give like Schumann like we see healing with that. But do you have any? What about those grounding mats? Because you have to plug them into the
Yeah,
wire in your home.
absolutely. So, I mean, I have seen um, a very small percentage of my clients have the grounding mats or have
Grounding sheets or
grounding sheets. And so I do believe that they do help to reduce inflammation and help the body heal more. And there's definitely a lot of positives there. In the building biology world, we very much are concerned about the focus on the quality of the ground as well.
yes.
And so that's something that we're very careful with terms of what we recommend to clients.
Yeah.
And that's it's hard to say how good somebody's ground can be, but let's take this as an example. So if you actually have a bungalow home, right? The the proper ground, the ideal, the gold standard is the earth itself. And so what we could do is we can actually drill out from the side of the building, put a ground rod that goes 8 to 10 feet down into the earth, and use that as a ground because that's a solid ground,
And use
right?
like a copper wire or
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You would use a copper wire, and that I can absolutely I can stay behind. Right. Yeah. It's just the quality of the ground inside our homes it's there's a misconception on whether or not that's a true quality ground or not, but
yeah.
we try
So
to. It's a gray
but
area.
and it's also safe to say that, okay, if you do have Wi-Fi in your house and you're not willing to like shut it off at night, you could get like you said, one of those things you push a button because the Wi-Fi, you just plug it into like a breaker kind of thing that can shut off, right?
Yeah.
Or breaker switch, is that what it's called? What are those things
It's
called?
a cutoff switch.
cutoff switch.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you can do while you're sleeping. But safe to say, if you have kids, they respond to these things even more. Like their
Yeah.
brains are growing, radiation really affects them. So it's safe to say they should be the furthest, at least from the Wi-Fi thing, without any Wi-Fi signals actively coming at them at night. Correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. The the most Our studies show that the most vulnerable are children,
Mhm.
babies, women that are pregnant, and also our elderly
Mhm.
people.
And I'll add people with Lyme, mold, heavy metals, or
100%.
detox issues. But
Yeah.
yes, yep.
It's all it I mean, I'm actually working with a client right now who is um has metal in her body,
Mhm.
and she's severely sensitive
Yeah.
into EMFs, and that is at a whole different ballgame in terms of how they feel, what they feel. But it was very interesting. Like, going through building biology school, all my training was done in the U.S. in North Carolina, and not everybody was a professional who owned a business, right? A lot of the people that were there were individuals that were just learning to live and cope with their sensitivities
Yeah.
towards EMFs and how to properly do things. It was eye-opening to really see that, because a lot of people, they don't, if they can't see it, they can't feel it, they don't really pay attention to it.
Yeah.
A lot of clients will tell you, I wasn't always like this, right? And that's what it does. The mold, the EMF, the
Yeah.
water, it breaks our systems down.
Yeah. I just also read a study and saw like a little video on. So there was like this small town, and this small town wanted to not let them put these like 5G towers, and they tried to like go against them, but then the judge ruled against it and said, no, put up the towers, but I want you to follow this thing and see if people get sicker. And what they noticed is that it took 4 years for people to start to see the uptick, or a couple years or something like that. I have to
Yeah.
find it.
Yep.
So, and then anyways, they found this out. And then what they did is every other study where the cell phone companies did, they made their study less than the allotted amount that made people start breaking down where you actually saw the uptick. And in this specifically, they were only looking at cancers. And it was like substantial how much it went up after like 2 years. And then 4 years was even more. And now every study is like less than that. I was like, wow, that's really interesting too, because the people who aren't sensitive to it, they don't feel it right away. They are like, their body tells them things earlier. Other people, they're not feeling it happen. And then they're getting different cancers are turning up. So I'm going to find that study and add it. But did you hear about that one? It was only recently
No,
that
I haven't heard about that one. But it's not surprising. Like,
yeah.
EMFs, it's not always, if you're already sensitive to it, is when you see a lot of the signs and symptoms. But it's just like living beside power lines,
Yeah.
right? Or having magnetic fields present in the home where you're sleeping. It's long-term exposure that creates these illnesses. And it's also, every person is different, right? Think about mold, right? You could take the same person, or sorry, you could take two different people, put them in the same room for the same time period, and they can react completely different.
And we
Right.
see that all the time with families where three of them are suffering immensely and then two are completely fine. And if you really dig down into it, some of them have like genetics for bad detox, or they have this genetic that makes more inflammation in their body, or they have something else in their body, that's also exacerbating these kind of symptoms.
Yeah. 100.
And also, we can talk about quickly, because there's a study that has been talked about a lot in the functional medicine world, in your world, where they exposed the petri dish with mold to a
Yeah.
5G base camp. Then they had one that was shielded completely from all EMFs, and then one that was not at a base camp but still exposed. And anyways, they showed the one at the 5G base camp versus the one that was shielded in a Faraday cage. There was 600 times more spores being produced. So I always tell
That's right.
people, so mold can live in our bodies, right? And now we know the direct waves can through our skin, because they say direct waves are safe because they only can go 1 to 2 milliliters, so they're not getting past your skin. But then the studies show, okay, you have your sweat glands in your skin, so now that is within the 1 to 2 milliliters. So these waves are getting access to your body and disrupting your calcium channels through your sweat glands.
That's
So
right.
now imagine you have mold living in your body. Some people have it colonized, right? So that means it's like living in your body and making it spores in your body. You're not just breathing it in and getting exposed to spores. So now you have it living in there and you're getting exposed to this G that now makes it make 600 times more spores. So sometimes you were coping, right? And your body was clearing out enough of those spores. And then that tipped your toxin bucket, because we always talk about a toxin bucket, right?
Yep.
So now you get symptoms. You go from subclinical mold colonized to all of the symptoms, terrible symptoms of it, because you're getting exposed to another energetic toxin or electric toxin. So those are other things that are going to make
Yeah.
people like more sensitive or not sensitive,
Yeah.
is like what's already living in their body. Like I
Yeah.
already had Lyme in hibernation in my body. Then I got a really bad mold exposure. And then I got exposed to COVID and 5G plus. And then my body tipped beyond being tipped. And then they put the wireless heart monitor and then I was toast. Right. So
Yeah.
this is what's happening to people, and we have to start to get smarter and start to delve in. This shouldn't be just a functional medicine thing. This shouldn't be just a biological home health. Like all of these things could be together. I always use the example with, you know, that show House,
Yeah.
Dr. House or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What does he do? He gets people to go to people's homes and see their environment. Like, why are we
Yeah.
not doing that? Like, we
That's
should all be
absolutely.
working together and getting people actual results, because sometimes their sickness can be healed from leaving their home. So, one of our biggest questions is, if you go stay somewhere for the weekend, do you have less symptoms? Like, these are for people with chronic illness. And that's even more of a sign. Like, check your house. Like, do you have mold? The air quality, which we'll talk about, which I know that you know a lot about too. Like, what water are you drinking in your home? Like, and then, you know,
Yeah.
what's in your room plugged in beside you when you're sleeping, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely. 100%. And it's it's when it comes down to it, like our home is our sanctuary. We work to be able to keep our homes,
mhm,
right? And if it's our home that's making us sick and not
mhm.
being able to go to work, then it's just a vicious cycle of what are we doing kind of thing. And so that's, yeah,
And
you're
no
absolutely,
one talks about it to people. So, people, if you're listening and you haven't checked your home and you feel sick, or you just don't even feel optimal, or you feel more optimal somewhere else, or you feel fine, but other people in your house don't feel optimal, then you got to get it checked for mold, checked for how much EMF,
yeah.
shielded for what it can. You know, I have a story, and you know, I had a kid that was having multiple seizures, and he had a smart meter room right on the other side of his wall. So if you had come in and you had tested there, it would have gone like beep, beep, beep. And you're like, even just moving the bed so the head of the bed isn't there is going to help someone to an extent. So
Absolutely.
it's huge, huge changes that you can have on someone's health,
Yeah.
especially kids.
Yeah. I went to
Kids are
another
like little meters.
I was gonna say I went to a client's home last week, and a lot of people don't pay attention to this area of
Mhm.
EMF, but um, outside your home,
Yeah.
your electrical wiring is either run underground or above ground,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of newer developments, everything's run underground. But in some of the older areas, like in downtown Toronto, we run into a lot of problems where the electrical wiring runs through and attaches to the side of the house.
Hmm.
And so from there, it's usually on the second or third floor of the homes, and then it comes down the electrical in service to the electrical panel. Where
And
it's
that's the low
attaching,
voltage stuff, right? That's
it
the,
is, yes.
yeah.
That's the magnetic and electric fields. But
Yes.
where it's attaching to the wall is usually on the bedrooms. And so the client that I was helping, his bed was right there.
Yeah.
Right. And so we were getting upwards of 17 milligauss on that wall.
And
And
what should it should be? What is
so like
optimal?
if you walk through a home, you should be probably between zero point 0.3 and zero point 0.5 of a milligauss. And so I mean the major solution is moving the bed off of that wall, but it depends on the size of the room you're working with as well.
Yeah. Other examples are like, say you're in a condo and you don't know what's on the other side of your wall. It could be someone's fridge that's running all the time right there by your head, right? Things that are always giving off kind of electricity. When I was really sensitive, I couldn't sleep at my husband's parents' house if we went to visit in his old room. And then we realized, once we got a clue of all of this, that the pool heater was right there, and it was in the summer, or and like all the electricity that went to the pool was like right outside that wall. And then move the bed, and I had way better sleeps without these severe night terrors, because that would happen to me and it would make my heart go faster and everything like that. So yeah, like finding out what's on the other side of the wall where you sleep, and then that's where your kind of body voltage test that you do on people's beds, right? Like you can
That's
actually
right.
see how
Yeah.
much is surging through them in what's supposed to be your sleep sanctuary, where you're supposed to be resting and getting, this kind of not these all of this information of dirty electricity and EMFs from G and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very true. And so like I always tell clients, so like if I come into your home and I'm trying to help you negate through EMFs, I can't act as a caveman, going back 200 years and taking away all the technology and all. My job is to help you to navigate you through safer ways of using that technology. Because not
Yeah.
all technology is bad technology, but also I really, really heavily focus on the bedrooms. Right. And so, like in the bedrooms, depending on really how far you want to take it, the gold standard is, it's all about body voltage testing as keeping electronics away from your bedside. I show people how even having things such as alarm clocks and lamps beside your bed can elevate your electric fields, which elevate your body voltage. We look at things like, like we already talked about grounding mats and grounding sheets and stuff like that, but also a body voltage and cutoff switches and how electricity really affects our body voltage overall.
And then you can help lower what it is. And like, I
That's
know you
correct.
showed
Yeah,
like, turning off certain breakers at night, like to get,
that's
I
right.
know some people can't, I know one guy that is in your field, he like shuts off his whole house. I don't know what he does. Like what happens to your fridge, or maybe just those ones stay
So
on.
no, what we want to do is we want to work to identify the circuits that are causing your body voltage to be the highest,
Mhm.
right? And we want to get it down to below about 100 millivolts.
Mhm.
Right. So we can do that by manipulating the breaker panel. So like one breaker controls a circuit around of a the breaker is a circuit, more or less, right? It controls a different area of your home. So what we want to do is we want to see, and usually it's the electrical outlets and the lighting that I find most to be the most culprits. But then I mean you have wiring running through your floors,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff too, right? So we identify the breakers first, and then we look to put in a cutoff switch, which will shut down those circuits at nighttime while you sleep. That way you
Mhm.
don't have to walk down to the panel to turn off the breaker. It's just like a light switch. You just turn it on, turn it off.
Yeah, unreal. And someone, if they're like, I wonder if I'm sensitive, like anyone who goes to like big arenas and they're sitting in the middle seat and they start to feel anxious or something, like, you're getting a lot of information and electric fields coming at you. So that could be part of it. But I'll say from our point of view, for internally helping if you get those symptoms, because we're trying to offset those calcium channel things like GABA we use a lot because that actually affects the calcium channels in your gut, and it communicates with your brain, and it can really calm things down. We use a lot of like nitric oxide builders because that's shown to rid a lot of the free radicals that we're getting from this. Tons of different antioxidants. Um, there's creams now to protect the skin because that's where it's like coming in, that have things like rosemary in it. Taking rosemary internally is also protective. Like we have a whole also like EMF guide that we can like protection on our what we kind of do, and then we can add all of your different products that you use, just like, as well as grounding and all of the other earthing, sorry, when you actually go
Yeah,
outside on the earth. What do you
absolutely.
think about
Yeah.
those
Honestly,
grounding shoes?
I definitely. So there's a lot of different things that companies will create, and it's just like the Aries Tech,
Yeah.
right?
What do you think of those?
I think
Drop in the
that
ocean or helpful? I mean, I like to have one just 'cause.
I think they're helpful. I think elimination of the source, that's how we're trained, but you
Yeah.
can't always eliminate the source. And
No.
I always tell people I never knock products because there's a company out there that creates these products and creates puts a lot of money, time and money into research on how their product works. And it's up to them to sell it to the general public, right?
And see how people feel. Like people feel
Exactly.
differences. Like I've like before I got Somavedic, I have different shungite, this, that, and I know they absorb a little, but you also have to like recharge them, which people think is like hocus pocus, but it's not. It's frequency, it's energy, and they can only absorb so much before it needs to be grounded as well. I've used like EMF rocks. I've used Aries Tech. I'm like anything that even those geometrical shapes that are supposed to protect you. For me, I'm like, give me the drop in the ocean because it makes me feel better, and the placebo effect is a true effect too, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of times people think, I've been in people's homes where they use crystals and they'll ask me, they'll say, well, Mike, do you think this works? And the thing is I'm sure it does, but it's very difficult to actually show that with
Measure.
an
Yeah.
EMF meter. Yeah, it's very hard to measure
Because
it.
because it's just harmonizing it for you. It's not
That's right.
changing the amount coming at you. Like
That's
it's
right.
not, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
we call those diffractors.
and like, we all see the people. Well, there's this one specific person, I think it's in like Mississauga. He walks around with a box around him that has like aluminum on it. Because, like,
Yeah.
the whole like aluminum hat, like aluminum
Yep.
blocks these EMFs. So
It
if people
does.
don't
Yeah.
understand that that's where it comes from, like, I mean, it's a thing because it's a thing. So, um,
Yeah, it is.
anyways, there's a lot to go through. People can reach out to you and, you can test their home and tell them what would be the best kind of solutions for them. But we can just touch quickly because honestly, that's an hour that's already gone by. Like we can talk
Yeah.
forever, right?
Yeah.
But and I wanted to talk about a little bit because you've been getting a lot of questions about air quality too, and that's another thing that
Yeah.
if you can get better in a home is protective for so many things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, so like with air quality, it's a big thing, and I usually break it down to the different areas that we concentrate on, right? So there's indoor air quality, which is everything from VOCs, formaldehyde, particulate matter, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. We do radon testing. We do monitoring, right? So you can take a quick snapshot in time, and we do that with a particle counter, which is it's a very sensitive particle counter. So it actually finds particles at the micron size, which is pretty much everything the Jasper air purifiers pride themselves on catching those little tiny zero point 0.3 or zero point 0.5 microns,
Yeah,
right?
the air scrubber.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I've really actually started to concentrate on those micron sizes as well, because the average indoor air quality company is more focused on, the PM 2.5s and the PM 10,
Mhm.
right? But the micron sizes are just as important because they're even
Getting easier to get in your lungs when they're even smaller.
100%. Yeah. And it's like that's what it comes down to. And so like people who have asthma, or even people in general, if you're exposed to high levels of particulates or formaldehyde and VOCs, they're irritants, right? So
Mhm.
they'll irritate our eyes, our nose, our
Mhm.
throats, our lungs, and long-term chronic exposure, right?
Yeah.
So it's
And like, so some things that like, I had never like owned a home. Now we own a cottage. Like I'd never had a house. Like we were in a condo and, we bought it from my grandparents and there were like hidden VOCs that were just like sitting in the house. Like I didn't realize there was old paint in the basement in this like back corner of this like cabinetry that they made. Like people don't realize that those things are off gassing. They're cleaning products and we get people to try and get, cleaner ones, or like you got a new couch and how long does it take to off gas all of those fire retardants, and then you're cooking on Teflon and then that adds to it, like, so it's a lot to clean the home and make it, but you can do it slowly without being overwhelmed, but just like starting to not be ignorant of these things that can be breaking down your health, right? Like,
yeah.
even we're not trying to scare people is what I'm saying, but like, it's better not to be ignorant and be able to prevent things for people that aren't in the stage where some of the people I work with are. That's what we do with our elite athletes. They're doing well, but we want them to stay doing well and have a longer career and all of
Yeah.
that. So this
Yeah.
is for everyone, not just sick people, right?
100%. And that's where you have to have a game plan, right? Of what are we attacking? What are the major combatants that we're dealing with, right? Like
Hmm.
radon. It's odorless. It's you can't see it or touch it.
Yeah.
It's the second deadliest gas next to cigarette smoke, causing lung cancer, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. And people don't realize it's in there after rain is when it's worse and it can be seeping in through, right, your
Yeah.
basements and
Well,
stuff.
it comes up through the cracks in the foundation
Cracks
of
and
our
foundation.
homes. And so like most commonly homes that are built on rocks
Yeah.
are usually associated with radon,
Hmm.
right? But that's not the case anymore. Like southwestern Ontario is hit hard by radon, and it's very prevalent. And the main thing is that there's just not enough knowledge out there, or sorry, it's not enough awareness
Hmm.
out there about it.
Hmm.
And in the US, you can't buy or sell a home without having a radon test done.
Wow.
But in
I
Canada,
know in New
it's
York it was huge. Like I had a patient where it was a huge problem. And funny enough, I was learning muscle testing and I was like, radon. I knew nothing about radon. I had just learned muscle testing. This was years and years ago. And anyways, they ended up testing their basement based on this, what I thought was silly, like my body moving with radon when I was like muscle testing is a whole other thing. And I think some people can do it. And I feel like once I got Lyme, it was very hard for me to do. But anyways, that just happened to be something. And then they test it and it was so high, like crazy. And then they even, I think, ended up like they were going to move anyways, but it sped it up. And then his health improved a lot. So it's kind of crazy.
yeah, yeah, it really is. So, and I mean, I think that's kind of like going back to what we were talking about, like with the rain barrel bucket and how it fills up. And so it's all these little, it's not little, but all of these things really raise the water levels in our rain barrels, right?
Exactly. And
And
then when
so
you don't want to overflow people. I did it twice in my life. And, I have a lot of insights, but I don't wish it on my worst enemy. Yeah. So here's some take homes.
solutions for air
Yeah.
quality. So there's some very easy ones, right? And so blue light on the furnace will help to neutralize any viruses, bad quality or sorry, particulates as
Mhm.
well. It helps to catch a lot of that. HEPA filters on our furnaces, really good air filters. Having air purifiers such as like the Jasper or there's a number of really good ones now.
And you can put it on your whole home if you're into that too, right? And then,
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
not the Jasper. Jasper doesn't do that, but there's other things, I'm
Yeah,
sure. I have one.
absolutely.
Yeah. Mhm.
100%. Yeah, and I don't sell the air purifiers, but I do recommend certain ones and I don't know which one do you recommend usually, Steph?
In your house, like in the room one, we do Jasper as well. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so that's
Mhm.
a good one. And another big thing, really like so on any new home that's being built,
Mhm.
the good thing is that builders are now recognizing how important these air quality issues are, right? And it's actually now code in Canada to have a radon mitigation system installed in new build homes.
Oh, wow. Good to know.
Yeah, and HRVs, right?
Yeah. HRV, you
HRVs,
can explain that to everyone.
yeah, absolutely. So HRVs, more or less, we always want to have a constant flow of fresh air coming into our homes. So HRV systems will actually do that. And you can have them balanced so that they're very efficient. And you'll see the difference in the quality of the air in your homes. And a lot of people who are in older homes, they'll think, well, my home is older, I can't get one. Well, that's not true,
Mhm.
right? I work with some very good HVAC companies, and we can make it happen. We can make it work for you.
Amazing. So getting that fresh air in, filtering your air. I mean, even when we had those fires and there was this smoke outside, like closing your windows, if you had like a good filter in there is protective. Like you want to let as much of that not filtered air in, correct? Like during those fires.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I actually did a video on this the other day about the outdoor air quality and how right now, because of the fires out west, it's affecting our air here in Ontario as well.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you think about this, this can also affect our air inside our homes, right? Because
Mhm.
what do we tell people? We tell them, open your windows, right? Get fresh air inside the house. Well, that only works
If
if
the
the
fresh
air
air is
outside
fresh.
is fresh. And so my air quality meters were showing as complete unhealthy measurements. And so yeah, we brought that to people's attention. But I mean, again, that's where, in those kind of situations, you want to close your windows and turn on the air purifiers and,
Mhm.
make sure that your filters in your furnace are changed regularly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we could go on for so long. We've missed, a lot of the other stuff that in your house that makes it safer, like clean water. Well, we didn't miss it. We just don't have time to talk about it today. It can be something that we touch on another day. But overall, a summary is, you want to negate as much as you can of what's coming at you. You don't want to be adding to your toxin bucket or your rain barrel bucket in your home if you don't need to. You want to lessen your exposure, especially at nighttime. One thing I talk about is wearables, like these things that are always communicating with your phone that you're wearing on your body. Like I was one of the ones that got it like super early and I didn't know it was a gift and I had aching in my wrist. So I was already sensitive in 2015, right? Without
Yep.
knowing. So, be aware of those things, like lower your electric burden on your body, right?
Yeah,
But what else? What do you
100%.
have to add to? like tell
I
people?
mean, I think really, you know, I really I speak very harshly on this because I think it's probably one of the most important things is our mold exposure inside of our homes. We talked about how EMF and mold
Affect each
high
other.
levels of EMF can make your mold worse. It's very important, I would say, to have your mold checked every 2 years or so. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what we specialize in is coming into homes and we do a general check, right? You would be so surprised at the amount of areas in a home we find that can be leading to mold, right? Whether it be high levels of humidity in your basement or whether it be a leaky toilet that nobody ever uses that bathroom and you don't even know that, there's drywall rot and or under sinks, right? Under sinks in bathrooms and basements and
What about in attics and roofs? Like, and then it
addicts
gets into the
100%.
ventilation. Yeah.
That's another area. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
that's what we do. We check these areas. We use all the tools we have in our toolbox. We use infrared cameras and moisture meters, and we do air testing and swab testing and tape lifts and
Yeah. So just so you know, if you got a mold test in your home and all they did was come in and suck the air, but they didn't have these other tools that he's mentioning that he uses, like you cannot feel safe in your home that you've ruled out mold because it's not that simple.
yeah, absolutely. And everybody always asks, like, they say, well, you didn't check behind the walls, right? And so the thing is what we want to do is we want to narrow down the different areas, right? Especially on ceilings, right? I'm a home inspector as well, so I work a lot with real estate for home inspections. And one of the things we do, and I'm actually finding a trend now where people want to have mold testing done before they buy a home,
Yeah,
right?
it's smart.
And so that doesn't just mean walking into a home, setting up an air test, and walking out.
Mm.
That means, running the showers, filling the tubs, letting everything drain out. And I was actually measuring the ceilings with an infrared camera, right? And so the other day we were doing that and we filled up the bathtub, let it all drain out. And when we went underneath, 10 minutes later, you could see the water leaking out from one of the pipes.
Mhm.
And so there was no staining on the ceiling. There
No.
was nothing
Yeah.
there before
That's
that
what people think
shows.
is that you see it and it's obvious and people are like, "Oh, I just did a renovate," or like it's just like, yeah, it doesn't matter, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even new build homes. New
Yeah.
build homes, when they're building, I'm finding a lot of people who have unfinished basements look up at the ceiling where your sheathing is and all your building materials. I've done several homes where when they're building houses, they're not covering the building materials. And when it
Yeah, building
rains,
materials have actual
yeah,
molds. I know. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So we're finding that a lot as well, right? And all these different things, I mean, that's what we're trained to look for.
Do you got a mold dog? I saw that there's
A
like
bulldog? No.
that Instagram where the guy has his dog that can sniff mold. Thought that was cool.
Yeah, no, we don't have one of those yet.
I am a mold meter. I can tell you if you have mold
Yeah.
because I will react. Just
Yeah,
but
and then that's the same with EMF, right? You get somebody who's super sensitive to EMF and they walk in a room and they're like, "Whoa," and they know right away,
yeah.
right?
But
And
see, now I can hold my phone. Like I detoxed a lot that I am like more resilient, right? So also people, if you are sensitive, you can get out these toxins and be living more normal, but still being cognizant and doing the things to negate as much as you can. So, that's also possible. I still can feel mold. I'll get like rashes right away and like my nose will be a little funny and then I'll be like, check your house for mold. Like, people don't want me there. But no, the ones that
that's just
don't
it.
want to.
Some people don't want to know either, right? They
Yeah,
they
they'd
they just
rather
don't
not
want to
know.
they don't want to know that there's something wrong there because then they have to do something about it, right?
Listen to the canaries, when
Yep.
the miners have the canaries in the mine, because they're going to drop when the CO2 is where we can still not sense it and we're not having symptoms, right? And they drop and then they die, and the miners go, I'm getting out of here. Like, you got to listen to the canaries like myself when I tell you that you
Yeah.
should get this checked because you don't want to be sick how I was sick and some of the people that I work with are. You don't want to get to that point. So, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, this was so amazing. I could literally talk to you for hours. We'll have to continue this conversation at some other point, but where can people get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So, I mean, you can go through our website at safeguard-solutions.ca. There's a contact form there. You can message us through there, or you can also visit our Instagram. On Instagram, I actually use it as an avenue to show my work. So our handle on Instagram is safe_guard_solutions. And that is you'll see a lot of our work there. It's a lot of information there for people who are interested in mold and EMF and water. We
Yeah.
actually I own a water company as well, Safeguard Water Systems. We specialize in reverse osmosis, 5-stage systems. We do alkaline, we do water softener systems, whole house systems. So we do that as well.
Well, everyone reach out if you want your house tested, or if you're not in the area, then just start to get interested in where you are and find someone. Maybe they could reach out to you and you could tell them other
Yeah.
people you know that have done this similar training.
Absolutely. We do a lot of online consults as well. So if
Great.
people are interested in finding out more about a certain subject, you can book that on our website as well.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much again for being here. So informative. Thank you, thank you, thank
Absolutely.
you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. It was a pleasure, Steph.